National Broadcasting Company presents the vivid drama of life itself. Broadcasting's original program of mediation. The Court of Human Relations. And now, the man who has familiarized millions of people with the idea of mediation, helped to make it a creative force in American life. A.L. Alexander.
It's been said that any person who finds happiness in his relationships with other people is a successful person, even though he has failed in most everything else. You are about to witness an actual mediation proceeding dedicated to happy and harmonious human relations. The intention is to take a conflict that has timely interest and wide application, cut through to the basic issue, and determine what is just and reasonable and fair. Now we welcome the distinguished mediators whom these people have elected to serve as their impartial judges in these matters of controversy. One of the most active and inspiring careers in America, famed author of The Power of Positive Thinking, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. Noted authority in the field of education and social ethics, president of Adelphi College, Dr. Paul Dawson-Eddy. A figure widely known for his establishment of happy and harmonious human relations, Dr. Ralph Emerson Davis.
You are the complainant. Suppose you tell us your story.
I am, Mr. Alexander. Can you understand that when you're accustomed to a certain mode of living, a kind of life, it's almost impossible to change it? I have a husband who seems to think that anything connected with tradition or family, any of that sort of thing, can be just sort of tossed right over as if it didn't mean anything at all. My thought is that I should keep a certain feeling of tradition alive in my children. I've tried very hard through many circumstances that we've recently had to keep that semblance of the security that I feel tradition gives.
May I interrupt to ask you to tell us something about your background?
My family are old New Englanders, and father's a Mayflower descendant, and mother's family happened to be deeded the island, Flag Island, as a matter of fact, by the King of England. However, I'm just saying that because I find it impossible to not let the children know how proud I am of that.
Well, what is the issue? Have you reached an impasse with your husband?
My husband and I are at a complete deadlock, and I would be very happy to hear your reaction.
Well, I ask you, do you think it's very wise for a family to proceed in a mode of living that they can no longer afford? I think it's very simple.
Did you used to live rather well?
Well, I had a very good salary, and we lived very well, but times changed, and with that change, to meet bills, we had to sell my securities, and then we sold the antiques, and we sold paintings, and finally did my wife's jewelry. And now I'm afraid that I'm going to meet the sheriff at the door someday, because I've lost all my resources.
Well, just what is the particular issue at this time?
Well, the issue right now is that I would like for us to move into a less expensive apartment and to remove our two children from a private school and enter them in a public school until such time as we can adjust ourselves.
Do we understand, and we're doing this in the interest of complete clarity, that not only have you sold many things, but it's been necessary to pawn things?
That is right.
And,
sorry to say.
And have you told your wife that something must be done?
Yes, I think that...
Why haven't you been able to do something about it?
Well, I'm not a brute, and I use all the reason and persuasion that I can, and now that is the reason why we're here. We're a bow to these superior minds at the board.
Well, your husband tells us that an emergency has developed and the sheriff is very near the door.
Well, I realize if it comes to that very crucial moment, firstly, the children remain in private school.
Well, isn't that
I
the issue?
don't,
You want the children to come out of private school because you can't afford it, is that right?
Correct, yes.
And what is your opinion about that?
I won't take them out. I can't take them out. As far as moving to a less expensive apartment is concerned, I can easily, I'm perfectly prepared to do that. I've been offered a one-room studio apartment, and I'll keep one child in boarding school and the other child here in day school. It's perfectly reasonable. I think that it will work out eventually.
From your own,
out.
from your
I'm
own
sure.
income. You
Well,
have a
yes,
private
it's-
income?
It's very modest.
But would you pay for, how would you pay for the private school?
Well, I just do the best I could. I don't know. Things work out if you strive.
Yes, but you take this income and apply it. Is that
Yes,
the idea?
yes,
But they
yes,
must
of course.
remain in private school.
Yes.
Well, I think that the home is more important than the private school, and if we have emotional bickering in the home due to the financial upsets, I think it's important that the family stay together. And so, what is the use of a private school if the home is broken up?
We address the wife. Are you willing to break up the family?
Well, if it comes to that as a sort of a momentary situation that I think will clear up, then it will have to be thusly for a
Well, do
while.
you feel that it's possible to have a momentary situation and separate from a husband and break the ties and the physical bond and, in a sense, the spiritual bond, and then turn it on again like a faucet and resume your previous relationship?
Well, I think it's very possible with civilized human beings.
Do you think that you're showing love for your children when you take this attitude?
Yes, I do. I feel that private schools create an atmosphere, which they do the very best they can, in any case, to make an atmosphere that is traditional in outside of the educational value of it. There's no question about that. Also, I don't want to take them away from their friends. I think, in view of the fact that our situation has been so insecure, that this at least remains as it is.
Do you consider your children very special children?
Yes, I don't know of any mother who doesn't think their children are
Well,
out of the ordinary.
Well, these are extremely special children.
Yes, I think they are remarkable.
Agreed.
Well, the fact remains that you're in a position where you're without
Yes,
financial.
Yes, and it has come to a pass now where the family either disintegrates or we are together and live in a less lavish atmosphere.
Dr. Eddy?
Well, I certainly admire tradition and think it has a great place in individual and American life. In our case, in our family, my mother used to say, remember, although we're poor, we're proud. So we tried to maintain that legitimate pride of family and of tradition, even though we were financially embarrassed many times. I think to take the position so extreme that if it's a choice between keeping children in private school, as valuable as they are, and I do not want to be misunderstood, they have a very large place in American education. But to make a choice between keeping two children in private school, boarding and day, at the risk of dislocating a family and depriving the children, the boys, of family life and of relationships of father and mother together, is a very great price to support a tradition, and that the tradition is not dependent upon one thing or one type of education. Real tradition goes deeper than that. It cannot be erased, and it has to be lived within the lives of the people. And I do know that there are very fine public schools that are available to our boys and girls, and out of which come some wonderful leaders with fine tradition and fine statesmanship and
leadership and everything else. Dr. Peel?
I'm thinking of an incident in my ministry. of a man who lived in a very poor shack up an alley with his wife. First time I ever met him, he was drunk, lying on a rickety old sofa with two magnificent paintings above him. The woman was working over a hot steaming tub, not a modern washer. And in the course of the conversation, I asked what the two paintings were. This was his grandfather and his grandmother, New England first family people, and they were works of art. He could have sold them. But he said he would never part with those pictures, no matter how many washings his wife took in. When we got him rehabilitated, I can see him yet putting these paintings in the first car that he had to take them and put them up in the family homestead. The paintings were not valuable to him as paintings, but they represented his diminishing ego. It had gotten down to the vanishing point. He couldn't let it go. It was his last hold with self-respect and self-esteem.
Now, how do you feel about that, Dr. Peel?
I think it's all right.
Do you agree with this woman?
In the main, yes. I don't believe she needs to break up the family. She looks to me highly intelligent, like she could go out and do a terrific job somewhere and keep those children in school and help to rehabilitate the family financially.
It's your opinion that she should keep the people, well, you want your children in private school, and you're in favor of that, and still keep up the marriage.
Oh, I don't see any reason why this should break the marriage at all. Not the slightest.
Dr. Davis?
The first thing that's in my mind is that I think it is a very bad thing for a family or an individual, so far as that's concerned, to try to live higher than their income. I don't think it can be done. I think trouble is waiting for everyone who tries to live on a scale that isn't warranted by the income. On the other hand, I think one of the finest things that can happen to a family and to the persons in the family is when they meet reduced circumstances, to walk up to them, to go into a huddle, so to speak, to make needed adjustments, and to balance the family budget. I think when the boys and girls are brought in and with the father and mother, they are told that we're up against something rather tough and we don't want to do this, but we're real people, we're people of traditions, we came over on the Mayflower, we can do it. When a family get together on that kind of thing, I think something comes into their life that's far better than anything they can get either in private schools or in public schools. And may I say this also, that while undoubtedly there are advantages in certain cases in sending children to private schools, that doesn't mean at all that there aren't advantages in sending children to public schools. And I think of this, one of our great problems in this country right now is the problem of human rights. How are we going to live in a desegregated pattern when in many sections of this country we have been educated to live only in a segregated pattern?
Well, Dr. Davis, I think that the specific issue here is whether or not these children should be withdrawn from private school in order to satisfy the wishes of the husband who finds the sheriff coming. And I'm sure that your point is well made.
Under the circumstances, I say no, and quite emphatically.
And do you agree with that, Dr. Eddy?
Yes.
Well, that seems to be the majority view of the board.
We feel that the family and the husband's anxiety and pressures under which he's working ought not to be increased by the additional expense of maintaining this very desirable objective, but which is not practical under these circumstances.
Well, to sum up, however regrettable it may be, if there is insufficient income, the conclusion is clear that whether it be a question of schools or anything else, there must be adjustment. And on the specific issue of the private school, Dr. Peel would like to have these children attend private school.
No, I'm not interested in whether they attend private school or not. I'm interested in the psychology of this mother. The private school is only a symbol of something she's trying to hold on to. I agree with Dr. Davis. I was a public school person myself. I don't see any smugness in this lady, but I do see a struggle to hold on to something she considers
Dr.
precious,
Peel,
of which this is only a symbol, and these two people should get together on a realization of their individual psychologies and do a little sense of unifying. But it isn't the school. It's what she feels in her psychology.
Well, Dr. Peel, suppose it's a symbol that they can't afford.
Well, I wouldn't say they couldn't afford it. I don't. If the sheriff is breathing down his neck, the tuition charges that they're paying isn't going to determine the factor one way or the
They're
other.
very substantial charges generally for boarding schools of the type that I'm sure these boys are in.
Well, it'd stave it off. It'd stave it off a couple of months. It'd stave off bankruptcy a couple of months.
Well, I think that we can sum this up, and that is that the preservation of the marriage is the best security for the children. A united family and...
Where is the preservation of the marriage involved?
Well, didn't we understand you to say that if it meant keeping the children in private school or breaking up the home, that you'd keep the children in private school?
She said break up the home while the situation was being evolved, but she didn't say she's going to break up her marriage with her husband at any time that I heard her say.
Well, Dr. Peel, do you think it's conducive to the preservation of a successful marriage to have people move out on each other?
Oh, it wouldn't hurt them for a while.
I'd hate to play the role that this man has to play and
They love
maintain
each
his,
other all the more.
maintain his dignity and his sense of responsibility against the odds that have been described to us. I think he needs to be considered in the situation.
Well, Dr. Peel, I think that these people came here to have a matter simplified, and I think it's our function as a board to clarify it for them and see the situation objectively. Now, apparently, there's a marked difference of opinion, and we've heard Dr. Peel's opinion, and certainly the symbol is a thing that's sacred, and I think it's something that he respects in this young woman. However, the majority of the opinion of the board is that if the symbol becomes too expensive, it has to be dispensed with in the interest of the other considerations. That's the majority opinion of this board.
Thank you very much.
As we express our thanks to our mediators and look forward to another session of the Court of Human Relations, as we express our thanks to our mediators and look forward to another session of the Court of Human Relations, I am reminded of the admonition, if there is a difference or coolness or unkindness between us, let us talk things over in an atmosphere of reason and of calm and of understanding. It is always better to light a candle, said a wise man, than to curse the darkness.